when Brother Johnny said to me, look, let's talk about the agenda of leaders in Africa. So I'm going to just talk from the heart and just share some thoughts and maybe just tell you stories. Those who are on Saturday know that I tell a lot of stories, especially in the countries in which I've operated in Africa. And in that way, it makes it, because I'm sure I've learned a lot of theory now. My job is just to share the stories. All right. I mean, these are stats you should have known by now. There's a book doing business in Africa. Is that right? What I want to talk about is leaders see opportunities. Leadership is about seeing opportunities in the midst of challenges and difficulties. And I'm surprised, actually, most of the people, the companies that are actually seeing these opportunities are outside Africa. And it's you and me who should be taking these opportunities. And that's why I'm challenging you as an MBA student, because, as I say, you know, when you're an MBA student, you're destined, and it's only you who can stop yourself to be a leader. I was here many years ago and I ended up leading at Shell. I led Excel Petroleum, and I ended up running the whole Sasol oil business. And we did a lot of work in the continent. And I ended up with an energy business globally for Sasol. So you are a leader and you must see these opportunities. A leader doesn't see opportunities, is not a leader. Because you need to unpack opportunities, identify them, find them, and making sure that you unlock them. You unlock for your company, unlock them for yourself, but also unlock them because we've got a mandate to lift people out of poverty. That's our mandate. Are you with me? All right, the next one is obviously these figures are already there. Actually, let me move to the next slide because the next slide covers them quite nicely. You can see, 1.3 billion people. And the United Nations project that by 2050 is almost double the people that are going to be here. And once you've got these kinds of numbers, you know that then it means there's growth in a number of sectors that are in place. The question is, you as a leader, the agenda you should have as a leader is, how am I going to unlock these opportunities? That's a critical thing that you need to have. And obviously, the population now is come about 60.8 of the world, which means we're big in numbers. Compared to China and India, we come there second. And we could be growing more. And this population is young. You know this, okay? You must have done it in the elective. The question as a leader is, are you going to take these opportunities? Or are you going to allow the Western countries, just like it happened 200 years ago when there's an opportunity for gold, who was rushing here? All over the world. The leaders went there, and they met in Berlin at some point. And those who study a lot about African diaspora, which is one of my passion, is they started slicing and dicing Africa as if it's it's their piece of land, Why? Because there was gold, there was diamonds, there was all sorts of minerals. That's what happened. Now, I'm in the energy business. You know what is happening now is energy rush. Because we've got both forms of energy. We've got energy that is coming from this ground. We've got oil, we've got gas, and we've got coal. And now with the move to new energy, we also have the sun. You go to Europe now, they don't have sun. We have wind. We've got ocean. And everyone is rushing now. Now we've got an energy rush. And I sit in these forums in this continent, and I sit and I look around. It's all white, male, all over the world who are rushing to Africa for the energy. Where are you? Where are you? I'm pushing you now so that you start thinking from a leadership point of view. That these opportunities we cannot afford to have. In fact, if we're not careful, we're going to be recolonized again because of our renewable energy opportunities that we have. Are you with me? Yes. And unless you stand up as leader and says, not in our lifetime. And then the second agenda that you need to drive, I won't be there by that time, but most of you, when I look at you, will be there. Agenda 2063. Do you know it? Have you read it? You know it by heart? No, you better know it by heart. Oh, she doesn't look like she doesn't even know about it. I write it down. Africa Agenda 2063. You must go and research that and making sure. It basically says the Africa we want is the Africa that is peaceful and prosperous. That's the Africa we want. It's Agenda 2063 is the mandate of the AU. And that you as a leader, you need to know that because that's your agenda. This is the agenda of your children and grandchildren. Are you with me? Yes. Very, very important that you should be focusing on this. All right. Now, if you're a leader, you need to understand the sector in which you operate and assume leadership. I spent most of my life in this sector. And I started here. This is why I was very involved in starting the Energy Leadership Center that is here because it was in energy. And I grew up from the bottom of my ladder, of my corporate ladder, and ended up running the energy business. And not only that, but the Association of South African Petroleum Industry Association. I've been a chairman twice on that. That's what leadership is about. You need to know all the opportunities that are here in the energy space. This is a growth engine that is critical for us as leaders. If there's any agenda that you should have, look at energy. Even if you're not an energy person now, you're in financial services, I promise you better make sure that you steer yourself in understanding how to provide financial services to the energy sector, making sure that you know how to deal making in the financial services sector, corporate finance in the energy sector, making sure that you understand that. If you've got a legal background, go there. There's environmental challenges every day. I've been in there. We were hit by environmental penalties every day. Are you with me? If you're an environmental lawyer, if you're an engineering, that's the space to be. Are you with me? And then the next area that is growing quite fast is manufacturing because we didn't have a manufacturing base in Africa. We always do not beneficiate, which is one of the biggest challenges we have in our continent. And it is you who needs to lead us there. Manufacturing is so critical, taking what comes out of our ground and really making it and beneficiate that and then sending it out and doing it locally. You create jobs, you create opportunities, you expand wealth and prosperity. It is sacrilege. That is only now that in Nigeria we're building a refinery, Dangote is building it. But for many, many years, Nigeria produced so much oil, crude oil, send it to all over the world and import it as a refined product at a massive price. The same with us with gold, the same with us with diamond, same with us. The only beneficiary, and I'm not saying it because I'm punting the company I've spent most of my working life on, is Sasol. We beneficiate coal. Ilahle, you know. How many of you grew up during the coal stoves? You don't even know them. You didn't know did you know how to make coal fire? If you miss it out, you must put the paper and then put wood, and at the right time put coal. If you miss it up, the whole house is full of smoke, You take that coal and we put it in the washing machine, dry clean it, boom, produce gas. After that, produce chemicals. I'm sure in the morning when you woke up, whatever you've used in terms of your soap and stuff like that, it's got a chemical product that comes from Sasol, that came from coal. Are you with me? I'm not even mentioning petrol and diesel because that's That's beneficiation. We need to spend a lot of time in manufacturing. Let me go back here. So if you're a leader in manufacturing, if you're an engineer, you must make sure that that's the agenda. Those are the great growth areas, 4 growth areas in the continent. And then obviously agriculture. 60% of arable land in the world is in Africa. Even Putin says, if I can just get Africa, I can feed the whole world. Are you with me? It's sad that we actually go hungry in Africa. It's lack of leadership that we go hungry. And then we have this Ethiopian pictures that you see in every airport, which drives me mad, of a little child with a big tummy, with nimpoganes, it's like that's the picture of Africa. And you get into the airport, you get it everywhere, you get into an airplane, they show you, skolek, in those teams. We can't have that image. We just can't have it. You have to stop it. If you're a leader in this country, in this continent, you must resolve in your heart that image, I'm going to tear it off whenever I see it. And I'm going to do something about that. Are you with me? We can't be. There's so much food that we can generate. At some point, Zimbabwe was a basket of Southern Africa. Now we are larger Zimbabwe. We've got most of the economic migrants that are here are the Zimbabweans. You're one of them. Tell us what happened. How did you lose that such great status? Leadership. That's why we're talking leadership. Leadership lost the plot. We all know it. First 10 years of Robert Mugabe was the best 10 years. But there's one thing that I like in Zimbabwe. The education still remains the best. At least give him a little bit of credit there. I've got friends who are Zimbabweans who would actually take their kids. They are staying here, but they'll send their kids back into Zimbabwe to go and study. Their education system is still, but it's probably deteriorated now. It is. It's down. But the point is, leadership lost the plot there. Lost the plot. We can just taking manufacturing and link it to agriculture and then get into agro-processing. Instead of just making those grapes to get into agro-processing and make wine and then sell it all over the world. Instead of those fruit, agro-processing and then make jam and make it and sell it all over the world. We've got macadamia nuts in Mpumalanga alone. It's unbelievably fertile for macadamia nuts. And they're very popular in Europe. Avocado is such a delicacy everywhere in the world. But most of it, you can find it here. But we suffered. Wheat, which is right now when the Ukrainian war started, we suffered in Africa because I didn't realize how much wheat we import from Ukraine. And then it had inflationary impact on our food. Come on, man. You can't allow that. Promise me, you can't allow that. We can't allow that. Yeah? In Agenda 2063, it's about you. I'm here just to inspire you, to encourage you, in order to. And then obviously technology. Technology. I'm so impressed now, there's this even Mukuru cards of transferring money from people to Malawi, to Zimbabwe, everywhere. There's so much technology that this is where we're really making strive. CVUI is one of those leaders that have actually looked at that opportunity and grabbed it. And technology, telecommunications, payment systems, apps. There's apps for everything in Africa. There's apps for trucks that are moving up and down. There's apps for food. There's apps for, the creativity that is there, and we can leapfrog very, very quickly. And those that are in technology, we can be leaders in it. This is why we've got here at West Business School digital school now, basically, a chair in digital studies, because we want to make sure that we prepare the next generation and the cohort of leaders that will take this digital revolution and lead it. We can't afford to be lagging behind. Yeah. When the first industrial revolution happened, we were slaves by that time. Yeah. Second one, we're probably not slaves, but we were still oppressed. And third one, we were colonized. Now, here in apartheid. Now the fourth one, we're free. We still can't blame the past. Are we with it? So the technology space is your agenda. You need to lead that with absolute passion. Just make sure I've got grandchildren, I ask them, what do you want to be? And then, they'll, and I'm getting a little bit politically incorrect. Be very careful if you've got a child. Are you with me? And then you send them in these Model C schools. Because they all come back. You know what they want to do? They want to be drama, music, and fashion design, graphic design. They'll be full of those things. Or then they want to be Lionel Messi and then they want to be. Are you with me? It's a huge distraction for our kids. Are you with me? When they're teaching their kids robotics, they're teaching them programming, they make sure that they've got the latest technology in order to be able to do app at the age of 7. Are you with me? Be careful. When I tell my daughter, my granddaughter, she's a very, very bubbly little girl. She says to me, I want to do ballerina. Yabona ke sebamfake umzukulu wami sebamfake nonsonso ke manje. Ufuna ukwenza iballerina uzolala udleni uphuza izaku But you obviously can't, you just mess it a little bit. Every year I ask her, yes, this last weekend, that's a lovely place when you're a grandfather. You've got grandchildren coming over the weekend, you spoil them and then you send them back to them. So I said, keep on asking. And then finally I think she's starting to, she says, no, I want to be the president. I said, yeah, that's great, my girl. Yeah, you're going to be President Morongwa, yeah. And I said, he said, but before I become a president, I need to do something else. I said, you know what? Be like Kulu, man. Be a business person. She says, yeah, Kulu, I want to be a business person. There you are. And then the grandson, we happened, it was a small factory there. So I took him to the factory, like my grandfather took me to the shop at the age of 7. So ngamba na factory, factory. And mind you, all he wants to do is to be an engineer. Yeah. That's it. Clap hands. You can clap hands for him. Whenever I ask him, I want to be an engineer. Because in fire factory, fire makara. Fire overall. Ngoba na ibeka buya ukuthi ufuna ukuba uMessi. Ngithi hey awumancane. There's 2 billion kids in the world that wants to be Messi. Their chances of being Messi are so slim. Are so slim. So I'm just saying to you, it starts there. Ask your children very carefully what career they want to do. If they want to sing, let me tell you, if you are a black child and you stay in a school where it's predominantly our compatriots, you'll always be the best singer. Why? Because we sing when we're happy, we sing when we're sad. Singing is part of our nature. And ukudenza siyazidenzela nje. God doesn't mean ukuthi uzaba Beyonce. Are you with me? Get them into one of these areas. Because we need talent here. Most of our talent is diverted by distraction. And sometimes I think it's designed. And we encourage it. Are you with me? That's very important what I'm saying. We're talking now legacy stuff, generational stuff. We want to change 2063. And you leaders in Africa, let's move on. Have you done this? African Continental Trade Free Agreement? Show me your hand, man. Then you tell. You better understand it. You better understand it. If you're going to lead in Africa, You better make sure you understand this, because this is a milestone that is so significant in terms of developing Africa. It is critical. It will support long-term economic development goals. You better Google it, find it, read it, and making sure you read it and you know it, because it, for the first time, because we're so divided. If you look at Africa, you're just pieces of, there's Southern Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and the northern part. But now we're trying to make one single continent. The reason why America is so powerful is because it is the North America, 50 states combined together. They have got more than 300 million people. So that's mass. So if you make a factory in America, you already got 300 million people. The reason why China is becoming a superpower now is because 50 years ago, they realized that we've got the numbers. So when you make a factory in China, you know that you're going to support 1.2 billion people. That factory is viable. Even if it's factory one's in Naliti, or in Pelete, whatever. You will sell them. That is why they're able to sell cheap to us, because by the time actually it is supplied to the Chinese market, they've already made the profit. Are you with me? So they just come and dump it here, yeah? Even my wife tells me, I'm saying things I'm a Chinese much. But they sell very beautiful things. But cheap. But they're manufactured because the marginal cost is already covered in their factories. So the number game is very important. So that is why we're trying to make this, to reduce all barriers. So we need to lead in this. And then encourage industrialization, mass industrialization in the continent. And then unlock innovation and productivity. And make our countries globally competitive. Very important that you need to understand as a leader what this initiative is. We are part of that initiative. As Wits Business School, we work with the US countries. We've got a program here, which we had a conference to look at how we can facilitate common. And it continues. It increases employment and opportunities and income, and it wants to lead to the GDP growth and improve public service and growing diversity. This is one of the most important documents you need to know, is if you're doing business in Africa, and study it and see what you can benefit from, what opportunities it unveils for your company, for your sector. Critical that you should be able to lead. So if there's an agenda, this is the agenda. A new agenda for leadership in Africa is this one. Make this thing work. European Union. Why European Union is powerful like that? It's because all the European countries, except Brits now, which decided to walk out, I think they're a little bit confused, but anyway, sorry to if you're Brits. But the European Union is powerful because there's so many European countries clubbed together, and they even have a military force behind them now called NATO. If you club together, unity is strength, we know that. So those two blocks, EU and America, is massive. That's why they really want to make sure that China does not come and become a superpower economically. So that's what we're hoping, particularly diversity in the trade in Africa. I think there's some green shoots that are starting to happen. This agreement is actually led by the DG, Secretary General of it is a South African guy, and he needs our support. Okay. Now, this is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time. Risks. Hey, doing business in Africa is also a risk, but there are real risks, and that's where I'm going to tell stories. There are real risks. Let me just go through them. There's risk between countries. There's long distances. Traveling is a bit of a challenge. Longer term, if you're starting something, it's a bit of a challenge, and I'll tell you about this, a little bit of story there. Working with governments is also quite challenging. And obviously you must make sure your ethical processes are in place. And then sometimes to get visas is a bit of a challenge. It's always a challenge, difficulties, and they are very cool. But these are real risks. There's some perceived risk. Some people think people in Africa are not educated. That's not true. People are very educated in the continent. That's not true. And not everyone is corrupt also. You can't stereotype. There's corruption everywhere in the world. Go to Lebanon, you'll see corruption. We just collapse the whole government. Yeah, corruption is it's just the nature of human beings. And to say there's no money, there's a lot of money in the continent. There's a lot of it, I'll promise you. There's modern facilities now, and there's a lot of opportunities. There's certain things which you need to be careful when you get in there because you don't know how they're going to play out when you're getting into. The influence of culture and history, you need to understand it, so economic diplomacy is critical. Whenever you're getting into any country, you need to understand the history of the country and understand the challenges. And Africa is just not one country, by the way. It's very diverse. So don't think what works in Mozambique will work in Botswana or will work in Senegal. And also Francophone, it's very, very diverse. What is critical, you need to be on the ground when you're doing business in Africa. You need to be there. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble. And sometimes changing parameters do change. And when a new government kicks in, you can be in trouble. So be very, very... And then sometimes there's too many opportunities. Once you're there, everyone wants you to do something. Just be a discipline of saying, no, this is my area of focus. Okay, let me just tell you the stories based on this one. All right. First of all, you need to have a local partner. When I was running Excel, which is in Excel Petroleum, was a small company that we built in the oil and gas industry. So to enter a country, just start close, Lesotho. I couldn't figure out to get into that country until I found a local partner. So principle number one, when you get into Africa, find a local partner. Somebody who understands the dynamics, who understands the politics, who understands the complexities, who understands the culture, who understands the markets, who understands the shifts that can happen anytime. Find a credible, let me add, local partner. Credible local partner. Don't ever enter there on your own. Are you with me? In Lesotho, fortunately, this guy was very credible. I was rolling out service stations. My job was to build service stations. That's the only thing I know in life. I built most of the service stations that you see them around. The Sasol one is probably most of them. And I found this guy. He actually came 3 times to my office. He came the first time and says, "Hey, I'm not interested in getting in Lesotho market. It's very small, man." You know. And he went away. The second time he came. The third time, I realized this is an entrepreneur. You know, I can recognize entrepreneur. He doesn't take no for an answer, an entrepreneur. And I said, okay, let me come. I'll come there and visit you so that I can see what you operate. And he said, don't even hire a car. Just jump into an aeroplane. When you land there, I'll be there. And when I arrived there, he was at the airport and took me around. He walked me around. Showed me all the opportunities, the different sites, the locations we can build a retail network. It was quite an opportunity. And then obviously I was doing my due diligence and check out. And then all of a sudden, before he thought, I said, okay, let's visit your home. I want to see your family. Critical. Credibility starts at home. Are you with me? Write that down. Credible. I said, asihambe siye kwakho ndoda ngifuna ubona udlala ngathi mhlawumbe ibhasi this business yakho is a briefcase Belsky. And we drove home. I found, wow, because he didn't expect me at all. We were meeting in a hotel, Sun Hotel. And when we went home, I was pleasantly surprised. I found, when you enter a home which is warm, kunomama, kunengane, kunabantwana. and you see, this is home, and this, okay. That was for me an acid test, acid test. Incredible. After that, now we started negotiating, do all sorts, due diligence. Obviously, you still must do technical diligence, legal diligence, you must do financial diligence, you must do all those things. You must never. But when you're an entrepreneur, some of us, you just say, this thing is so much. Does it click here now? And I did business with that guy. We rolled out all the retail sites that you see. If you see a Sasol service station there, it was built during my time. Oh, you can clap it if you want. And we made a lot of money in that small country. Found a local partner. So you've got that principle? Very, very important. Let me talk about long distance challenge in Nigeria. I'm not even going to talk about what the stereotyping says. Not all Nigerians are corrupt, okay? Let's be clear about that. But you need to be careful. You need to be extremely careful. But what I want to talk about in Nigeria is the supply chain challenges. It's a big, big problem. So write it down. Check the supply chain when you're at it. Do you have the supply chain systems that will carry you? We were building a gas to liquid plant there, and on the delta side of Nigeria. And normally it takes us 3 years to build a plant like that, at most 4 years. But in Nigeria it took us 10 years to build that plant. Where there's so much gas in Nigeria, it's actually getting flat. So to get it and then from there, put it into our technology at Sasol called gas to liquid, and then make petrol and diesel out of that, it was such a brilliant idea. We worked there with Chevron, in partnership with Chevron, which is basically here in South Africa, you used to know it as Caltex, but Chevron is a company, and we formed a partnership with the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Company, with 3 parties. But just when you need spares, it's so difficult to really deliver them, because it's, even if you use couriers and if you use postal services, whatever, or even trucks, it's difficult. We had to be very creative. If you need spares, which you can put them in a box, our people, when you come home, and when you're working there, and then you come home, when you go back, in your bag, you find bolts and nuts and all the things that we need in order to bring it quickly to where we need. So just so the principle number 2, supply chain. Very, very, very important. It's difficult because there's no easy roads, there's no highways, there's no railroad, and planes only fly predominantly to Lagos. And then when you go out to others, very difficult. So it's critical that you have. And also the supply chain is affected by also all sorts of things, the warlords around the place, and the warlords, they can just hijack your truck. And so the supply chain is critical. And also it's very difficult to reach out. I mean, and then when not pandemic, an epidemic pops out, to go there was a bit of a challenge. I remember when Ebola happened. I remember it started in Liberia, and it quickly spread through, and then it was entering Nigeria. And I had a lot of people working for me as a leader in Nigeria. And I had a moral leadership dilemma there. What do I do? Do I call them out and shut down the plant? Or we don't try to mitigate that risk on there? But I couldn't. That's another thing. Question here. Necessity of being on the ground. I couldn't take that decision unless I was on the ground there. Now I said, okay, I have to go to Nigeria, and here's the Ebola is starting there. And obviously when you are a leader in a big organization like that, once you start the trip, as you're still just processing it, Rennie is processing your travel, the safety triggers come in. The safety officer walked into my office says, Mr. Radebe, you can't go to Nigeria because the Ebola is growing. And I said, now, what do you mean when you say that? If you say I can't go to Nigeria, then I must make it, then my employees that are in Nigeria must come back. Because it's a moral dilemma here. Are you with me? And that's right down. You face moral dilemma as a leader. And in any continent, you'll face a lot of those ones. It's a moral dilemma. And he begged me. And I said, listen, it's either I pull them out or I go on the ground and assess the situation myself. After consultation and deciding and realizing, I felt in my heart, no, I need to go. Because the wives of everyone that is there are already looking at me and say, hey, our husbands are there in Nigeria. If they die, you're in trouble. Are you with me? So these are moral dilemmas you face. At the end, I had to be on the ground myself. Jumped into an aeroplane, landed in Lagos, got into a helicopter, right into the Delta, where Ken Saro-Wiwa was killed. You know Ken Saro-Wiwa? Oh, yes, most of you are still young. And I landed there. And I met they were so happy that the leader of the energy business in Sasol has come personally. Leadership is about you leading from the front. So put it down. You need to show people. People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. Are you with me? People don't care how much you know unless they know how much. So I was showing care. And that risk paid so much dividend because when I was there, I assessed the situation, I asked them, I went into where they stay, I found out everything, and then from there, had an engagement with them. And then I said, no, you know what, if you can put this safety precaution, 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 these measures, you don't need to evacuate us. And then I said, okay, fine, I've spoken to the people on the ground. Leadership is about speaking with people on the ground. Write that one down. Very important. And then I said, okay, now I want to meet the MD of Chevron on top, the guy, because now we're running this plant together. Let's meet. And we met. And I said, China, you're a leader at Chevron, I'm a leader at Sasol. Your people are still here? And he said, they are still here. I said, now let's put an evacuation plan together. So we ordered the plane, put it on standby, and making sure that all evacuation procedures are in place. And I said to him, here's my cell phone, give me yours. Immediately Chevron triggers an evacuation operation, you send me an SMS, I trigger my own evacuation process. So partnership is also about partnering in order to save lives. Are you with me? And I shook his hand, he shook my hand. I flew back home. My wife said, thank God. Who cares? I landed home, and every time I was in touch with the MD of a Chevron in Nigeria. And we were able, fortunately, the Nigerian health system was very, very, very responsive. Quickly isolated the person who was there, tracked down everybody who had the first Ebola. You know how Ebola used to expand. And tracked them, traced, boom, bam, and it never took off. So, point is, Be on the ground. Be on the ground. Make decisions on the ground. Very, very important. The issue of ethics is true. Is true. Yeah? Africa, yo. Zim, by the way. I used to supply Zim, 50 million liters a month. Trucks going there, you know. Noxy, except for the national oil company of Zimbabwe. Used to supply them with fuel. And they used to pay me right. Hey, I don't know what happened. Hey. Hey, but that's when I was smart. I stopped very quickly before Malini. When I said, no more credit line, I don't take LC. I know LC, you know LC, letter of credit. I don't take LC from the Bank of Zimbabwe. No. Are you with me? And I refused. But they said, but COD will pay. I said, no, let's change it. CBD. You know what CBD is? Cash before delivery. Cash before delivery. CBD. So first I stopped my trucks to go there in Zimbabwe. Because made my lunch bad bridge ingenangale. General is a bump. That's a bunch of coons. You know that. The generals of the ZANU PF. Those guys are powerful. It's a bunch of truck for a whole week. It got the petrol and diesel, customers are waiting. Finally keep, manage keeper. Finally keeping you. I'm not there. I don't get there. Now you bring on your trucks. They go to Natref or Secunda. Those are my refineries. Cash before delivery. My figure truck, cash must clear. If it's an LC, it must be a net bank, standard bank, and it must clear first. Are you with me? I'm teaching you a lesson of doing business in Africa here. Real one. Otherwise, you're going to lose your money. There was no petrol. Yeah, because what? I was supplying. And cash before delivery. And then new players came, and then they started sending their trucks. I still supply them. But CBD, write it down. CBD, not COD. CBD. COD means you deliver and then I pay. I say, in the continent, you need to be, as NAMPAC, and man could not expatriate their money out of Angola. Are you with me? So just be very careful. Those are the kind of things that you need to. Let's talk about working with governments. To tell you another story. Good story, this one. Mozambique government. We worked with them on a big project. You see, Mozambique discovered gas on the southern part and also discovered massive gas in the northern part. Now, this is why as an energy leader, I'm very passionate about we should use our gas. Don't tell me that we should neutralize our gas because of green energy. No, I don't buy that one. But at least the south gas, southern part of Mozambique, there's gas there. Mpane Timane, if you know Mozambique quite well there. We've got gas fields there. Now, they were stranded, those gas fields. Nobody was doing that. Actually, they were owned by Enron. If you're long enough in the oil and gas industry, you know Enron, it collapsed during the time of the great scandals of the corporate world. We did Arthur Andersen at that time, which was a consulting firm. And so they left that. So we came in, and then we drilled that gas, we found it, and then we needed to transport it from Mozambique, Pandetimana area, to Secunda. Because that machine, I call it a washing machine, it can wash gas also. The reason I'm calling it simplifying you, but it's a very technical, complicated, scientific process. It can wash gas and produce diesel and petrol. Are you with me? So we had to put a pipeline, 600-kilometer pipeline from Mozambique to Secunda. Now, that is where you saw where we worked cooperatively to harmonize the regulatory framework. Your finance, harmonize the whole customs excise duties, harmonize the whole relationship in terms of the tariffs that should be in place. And it was 3 parties there where we worked together. It was Sasol as a private sector, and it was the South African government represented by iGas, which is basically part of the Central Energy Fund, and then it was a Mozambican government represented by the National Oil Company of Mozambique. We worked together. That was the private-public partnership. We understood each other. We had in Mozambique our own country manager. Always must have a country manager that understands the government players. We negotiate. Obviously, when you negotiate, you bump your heads, you deadlock, you come back, you talk, you find answers. And finally, we had a win-win situation. The gas that you use right now in South Africa, we created the entire gas market. Whether you're using it at your home or whether the factories that you use, it comes from Mozambique. That was the greatest public partnership project that we implemented together. So it is possible to harmonize. Yeah, you can clap hands for that. That is a good story. Very important story. When you're working with governments, you need to understand each other's needs. You need to understand, and there must be mutual respect, and it must be a win-win deal. Very, very important, because if you try to do a win-lose deal dealing with government, trust me, let me tell you a story about Chad. Chad, it's a public domain there. In Chad, they also found oil in one of the big multinational, I won't mention its name, because it's important to be careful about names of people. But this multinational company, which is an oil company, did a win-lose deal with the government of Chad. A win-lose deal in the sense that the crude price was still $10 per barrel. So when you negotiate a deal and it says, no, we're settling it, we'll only pay you $10 per barrel, and we fix it, that's a win-lose deal. Because when the crude price started going to 20, you fix, so the government gets 10, and you're creaming. It goes to 30, 40, 50. Yeah. Now what happened there? You know, at some point it reached 120. So the multinational oil company was making a lot of money. The government was not making money this time. That's an unfair deal, illegal, unethical. Are you with me? Don't fall into that trap. Write down. Be an ethical leader. Be an ethical leader. And this is very important. Very important. And the problem is that in our game, it's a long-term game. Are you with me? So I was there 20 years ago. So the same executives that negotiated on behalf of Mobil, 20 years later, they are retiring. And you know, when you retire, you get bored and you want to consult. Who do you consult for? The government says, please come and consult for me. So they go and consult now for the Chad government. And then for the same contract that they drafted when they were on the other side. Are you with me? So now they started making the government official wise now. They are contract layers in Ropi. Are you with me? And there was bad blood. It was painful. It was litigation. Man, it ended up in a very, very sad situation. That company was chased out of the country. Are you with me? When you're dealing with in the continent, don't take advantage of the fact that they have a lower understanding of your industry. and the complexities of your industries and the trade secrets of your industries. And then you take advantage. And throughout Africa is littered with those kinds of deals which are very, very, very bad. And that is why we started here, deliberate and conscious, and I was instrumental in starting it, the Africa Energy Leadership Center, because, and it's got a lot of people from throughout the whole continent, especially now in Namibia, because that's another place where hydrogen energy opportunities are there. So it's very, very important. When you're dealing with government, you must also understand the political landscape. This will tell you another story. I've got a lot of stories. So you must tell me, what's the time? Yeah? I must stop now. Huh? This one is very simple, this one. I was a small country, Swaziland. I'm trying to enter as Excel. And I identify a guy, I didn't do my due diligence properly. And because you knew the oil industry, so I thought, well, let's partner with him locally. But I didn't understand. Things were not just moving. We'll go to the office, we're going to ask for licenses, we don't get nothing. You go, you knock on this door 3-4 times. Everybody's nice and diplomatic to you and said, but nothing works. Nothing. And I wonder, what's wrong with my partner here? Until one day, that guy calls me. Hey, your partner is a member of the opposition party. I said, oh, yeah. Is this thing? Are you with me? So you need to understand that political dynamic. Because you could be working with people where there's political sensitivities around. You have to do a quite thorough due diligence whenever you do that. Because when you change, when you choose the local partner, while it is credible, ethical, and also you must understand with his political networks are correct. Are you with me? Very, very, very important. That was a very, very tough lesson for me. One last one, frequently changing parameters. Nigeria, you've seen how tax revenue office in Nigeria can change overnight just like that. He says, yep, yeah. I mean, after we built this plant and all we're doing very well, they slapped us back, boom, 2 billion rand tax. I said, hey, wait. $2 billion. Took us 2 years of fighting it in the court. Spending a tremendous amount of money with the lawyers. That's why I say, if you want to be a lawyer, just get in the oil industry, you'll make a lot of money. So we had to fight, finally, we settled a very small amount of what they. But that's what happens. I mean, the MTN suffered the same thing, and most of the countries, they just slap you with the, with the tax bill, which you say, just what on earth? Changing parameters. They can change very, very quickly. Very quickly. But having said all of this, what is the job of your leadership? Is to mitigate this risk. Are you with me? Because they can paralyze you and not see the opportunity. So I'm telling them not to discourage you. I'm telling you to be just wide awake when you're getting into it. And then go and grab those opportunities. The opportunities are galore. The opportunities are there for the taking. And it's you, African companies, led by you, that must go there and take the opportunities. Because when you are there, you're patriotic. You will make sure that there's development of the people. Make sure that there's local content and employment opportunities are there. You'll make sure that there's no what we call transfer pricing that really extort profit out of the country. You will make sure that there's enough profit left in the country and there's profit that you take because you deserve to have profit because you've taken a risk. You need to lead. So again, Agenda 2063 is yours. And it is your mandate. And I'm charging you in the name of Africa. Go out, deliver Agenda 2063. The Africa we want. Thank you very much.